Thank you so much, Dr. Mahesh, for joining us on a podcast at Dawdle. Extremely grateful that you took out time out of your busy schedule and joined us to make our audience, our global audience, aware about something which a lot of people are not aware of. With your consultation, we have defined a few topics on which we'd like to take your insights on. But before we go there, sir, would be great if you can give a context of your journey so far so that the audience have got a context that what we are going to talk about.
Okay, so my work primarily spans around one of the core methods of diagnosis, which is not followed very much in the Ayurvedic circles. That is Nadi Pariksha, which is pulse diagnosis. It's roughly called as pulse diagnosis, but we call it as Nadi Pariksha. So Nadi essentially means everything that flows in our body, and there are different channels that flow in our body, and there is a method to find out what is happening. These channels essentially carry information about what is happening in every part of the body. It is like it is like a network of vessels. So whichever part of the body that is working or not working, these network of vessels give out that information. And there is a way to listen to this information, to find out what is happening, and then to also understand whether this is manageable, treatable, curable, or not curable. So this method of diagnosis is what I practice, and I put in about 24 years into this practice, and um, and in this method of diagnosis, there are three types. One is what we call as sparsha nadi pariksha, wherein you actually touch and feel the pulse. The other is sutra nadi pariksha, wherein we use a cotton thread, tie it to the person's wrist, and feel our own pulse. This was practiced in the olden days. And the third is what we call as duta nadi pariksha, wherein we have a video session like this where I focus my attention on the client's forehead and feel my own pulse. These are the three kinds of diagnosis we do, and we also teach the diagnosis to Ayurvedic doctors, to yoga professionals, and to natural therapists like Reiki and pranic healing or acupuncture therapists. This is broadly what we do.
This is very interesting, sir. And you have invested over 2 decades studying the flow of pranic energy through the body's nadis. So how does this ancient framework correlate with modern anatomy, particularly with nervous, endocrine, and circulatory system?
If you look at the human body, the body that you can see with your physical eyes, that is about 2% of our existence which we are able to see. So with modern science, we are working with 2%. With Ayurveda, we are working with the total 100%. So to give you an example, we have what we call as avyakta bhava, which is unmanifest emotions. And then we have vyakta bhava, manifested emotions. We are looking at what anger does to the body, what fear does to the body, what sorrow does to the body. That is the larger part. And we focus on the larger part and then how that translates into a physical symptom on the 2% that we can see. So that sum total is what we are looking into Ayurveda. So modern science is more of an empirical evidence, what you can see, touch, feel, that is what you are going to treat. So to give you an example, it is like a seed germination. You put the seed into the soil and the seed germinates. Now the seed does not germinate because it is put into the soil. The seed germinates primarily because, first of all, the element of germination is already present in the seed. So there is a tree in every seed. And unless the tree is there in the seed, the seed cannot germinate. And that aspect of creation is something that modern medicine cannot measure. But in Ayurveda, we are also looking at the aspect of germination, aspect of that prana, which is present in the seed, which makes the seed sprout or germinate. So there are two different streams. Comparison is not the right word because one is science as defined by modern medicine. The other has pramana, anumana, where there is an inference also which is heard, inference that is coming from the scriptures, inference that is coming from direct perception. So different kinds of inferences are derived in Ayurveda.
Got it, sir. And how difficult is it to kind of get all this knowledge because this is so old? Like, so are there sculptures or books which actually talk about, such kind of stuff that you have been doing? Or is it more from like you were taught by a guru and then, guru and shishya kind of a thing? keeps on going on?
See, in Ayurveda, what they did was, this definitely comes from Guru Shishya Parampara. When it comes from Guru Shishya Parampara, what you must understand is that the teachers who wrote these texts, they were very serious about who is going to learn this text, which means that you need to have that aspect in you, which will get you to be a serious student. And so they distributed the verses in different texts. So your Guru would have researched different texts and collated that knowledge, inferred that knowledge, and he would have passed it on to his Shishya. And that Shishya, when he becomes a Guru, he would have passed on that knowledge to his Shishya. So this is how it happens. So we have, which is why we have several texts like Ravana Nadi, Kanada Nadi, and we have got different scriptures like that, where you will find pieces of information everywhere. And then you have to infer from an experienced person. You have to learn that inference from an experienced person, and that is how you gain that knowledge. But we have made some inroads into how we can shorten the journey. Otherwise, it takes about 40 years for a person to learn. So we have shortened the journey by doing some research, which I would like to disclose during this session.
Surely, sir. So when we talk about Nadi Pariksha, is often being described as a pulse-based diagnostic tool, but you have interpreted it as a multi-dimensional energetic assessment. Can you break down the mechanics of this entire pulse integration, how pressure, rhythm, and vibration reveal psychological, physiological, and emotional imbalances? And what are those empirical or measurable markers are you working to codify for medical and research validation?
It's a very interesting question. Let me put it this way. It's a little cryptic, a little ambiguous. That's how it is. In Nadi Pariksha, though we call it as Pariksha, as examination, there is very little of doing. There is more of listening. It is just like you have a wave analyzer. A wave analyzer, you just put the probe and it will pick up the wave. Right? So similarly, we sensitize the fingers and silence the mind. And the more sensitive you are, the more information, impulses you pick up. And those impulses are recorded and then they are inferred. All right. Now it involves consciousness. That is because I record sadness, I record sorrow, I record grief, I record desire. Okay, with the help of my pulse and with the help of consciousness, I am recording physiologically, I'm recording acidic indigestion, hyperacidity, migraine, I'm recording constipation. Also, finding the differentiation between constipation and poorly formed stools. There's so much of differentiation which comes by recording the pulse, recording the nadi, okay, with the help of the fingers. Now, whether this differentiation can be deduced into measurable elements, that is questionable, because how would a wave describe something that we are measuring with our fingers? The wave is definitely more sensitive. I mean, the probe is more sensitive than the human finger, but the human finger connects to consciousness, which the wave doesn't. Right? So that question remains. We've had several. I've had interaction with several stalwarts professors who have discussed on the same length on what is the limitation, how far can we go, but that question still remains unsolved, because I've also met people who have invented these nadi pariksha machines.
Yes.
And gone through the diagnosis through their machines on my own self, but there is no inference. There is always arriving at a solution by what they want to conclude as a measurement, but not in reality a measurement. Right, so there is a difference. It's still, I think we're still very naive when it comes to science, because consciousness is something that is not measurable.
Yes.
Emotion is something that is not measurable. But yeah, emotional responses on the physical body can be measured, but the same symptom can occur from different emotional responses. There's a very small difference, very subtle difference, which can go off if it does not involve a human intervention.
Sir, I had gone to Vipassana 3-4 months back, and for a 10-day course, where they made us meditate for from morning 4 a.m. to 9 p.m. The initial 4-5 days were very tough, but from the sixth day, what Guruji told us is that you start observing how flow is happening within your body, and don't respond to that. Like, you just observe. So, if a mosquito sits on your head, you should not respond. You should just let it be there. If you're feeling the itching, you should not do that. You should just control. 8-9 days, sir, I will tell you, I felt like not touching my mobile phone on the 10th day. Like, my hands were shivering. Like, And when I came out of that meditation, that Vipassana center, which is on the Tumkur Road in Bangalore, I was so much within my own self, like I could sense the vibrations. But slowly, within 15, 20 days, I again came back to my normal self, and then again kind of lost that consciousness. But that was a very divine feeling, sir. And I can relate to that, because what you are telling is that this is what is being observed, measured, or kind of sensed by what you have been doing, because these flows affects our body, kind of tells us a lot of things. So that Guruji used to tell that if you're feeling a pain in your, say, left heart, or say left side of the chest or right side of the chest, you should just take your mind there, feel it, but don't tell it to do anything. Don't tell it to subside, or don't tell it to kind of do. So I can relate to some extent, sir. But we'll go ahead. And so you often emphasize that chronic ailments so originate inside unprocessed emotions or energetic distortions, which I have felt personally in my life. Now, from your clinical experience, sir, how do emotional states manifest as physiological disorders, and what are the observable patterns in the pulse? And also, could this methodology someday complement psychosomatic diagnostics in clinical psychology?
Whether it can complement diagnostic clinical psychology is a question mark, because unless I'm writing something that is not measurable, that is measurable, it's okay. But if I'm writing something that is not measurable, for example, today evening I had a client and she took a appointment saying that I'm desperate, I'm having stomachache, and I want to come for a consultation. And she came and she had also called her husband. So I've did her Nadi Pariksha and I told her your body is absolutely fine. Your problem is just that you want to leave somewhere, and before that you want the work to be done. And through the Nadi I was able to see that her husband was carrying a plank of wood. The Nadi also gives out memories, so through the Nadi I was able to see that husband was carrying a plank of wood. And then we have another doctor who suggested that I do Marma Chikitsa. I asked this lady to lie down, and I did Marma Chikitsa. And when I saw the emotions were visible, that she is planning to leave on Thursday, and before Thursday, she wants the work to be done and she is stressed. And I don't know that she wants to go somewhere. I asked her, are you wanting to go somewhere on Thursday? She said, yes. And before that, you want the work to be done? She said, yes. I said, that's the pain. And the moment she started talking about it, the pain aggravated. Now, how do I write this to a, for a modern medical intervention? There is no medication that she requires. She needs to work on her psyche. She needs to work on her thought. She needs to calm down. And the best part was the husband was telling the same thing. All this is coming from your emotions. So he is a sensitive person. But what he told, she disregarded. When I told the same thing, I mean, she said, it can't be true because it's the same thing my husband told. All right. So these subtle emotions, they manifest as physical problems. And there's so many of them, um, but unless they are able to accept it, it's not going to make any relative sense. All right, we have seen different kinds of ailments. We have seen pains coming because of emotions, and we have seen these pains translating. We have given people the diagnosis 7 years before it manifested into a symptom. We told them, don't hold on to this anger, it will manifest as cancer. We had one person who used to chew tobacco. We told him, please don't chew it because you'll have anorectal cancer. And 4 years later, he came with a report of anorectal cancer. But why should tobacco only cause anorectal cancer? Why shouldn't it cause oral cancer in that person? Why shouldn't it manifest as a cancer in the throat? Why only anorectal cancer? Because the person's weakness in the body, in Ayurveda, we call it as kavaigunya, empty energy pockets. That's where the dosha first accumulates. So the dosha for him was deficient in the rectum, and that's where the doshas are accumulated. And that's why we said it will manifest as anorectal cancer. All right. So how do we possibly get to measure this? It's absolutely not possible, because the modern medical systems, they are designed to capture a particular frequency. They definitely have a certain level of sensitivity, but this sensitivity is something that has got a definitive pattern. It cannot capture something which still hasn't manifested in the body. It cannot capture something that is in the psyche. It cannot capture something that's a vibrational frequency. It can capture certain frequencies which are within the physical frame. So there are limitations to where it can capture, because if I go and tell people, for example, we had a client who was a 2-year-old child who had a febrile seizure. So we told this child has eaten 10 cashew nuts, and because of that, pitta has increased. And because pitta has increased, the child has constipated, and that's the cause of the febrile seizure. Now, the modern medical doctor said, no, cashew nuts don't cause pitta. Now, when did they study dietetics? They did not study dietetics. So, for them to say that cashew nuts does not cause pitta, and they don't believe in the concept of heat,
Right.
right? But Ayurveda, it describes heat, krodhat pittam. And the client's mother, she had applied a certain oil, hing and castor oil. And when the boy reached the hospital, he passed stools and the fever just came down and the febrile seizure was gone. And then he was all right. So the mother knew what to do, but the doctors did not know how to treat. So how do we bring this into a evidence-based arena? Very difficult. It's there lots of challenges. They have to take into account native knowledge of what a grandmother knows, what a mother knows. Mothers are intuitive. They know exactly what to do. They can't explain to you how they know,
Yes.
but they know.
Yes.
So we have to take into account that knowledge system. We can't disregard it and say that doctors alone know. So there's a lot of receivables that they have to open themselves to. So when it comes to integrative medicine, it's always like the framework is modern medicine and you bring in your native knowledge onto that. It doesn't work that way.
I got it, sir. And this is so relatable, sir, because I remember, like, 2018, I had a jaw pain. So I went to a few doctors and they gave a few medicines. It didn't work out. I don't know. And then somebody told that, you should start meditating, you should start feeling it. And there were some 2, 3 things that I learned and I started doing it and it kind of went off. And then I realized it's all about energy, sir. I think, you kind of attract. So there are two things that happened in my life, which has actually proven to me that energies really matter. One is that I married the same kind of a girl whom I imagined in 2009. That was way back in 2009. I was in my 11th standard. 11th? Yes. No, 2000. Yes, I was in my 11th standard. And the second is that I went to the same college which I used to always dream of before sleeping. And these are the two things which actually proves, kind of, sometimes proves to my mind is that, and maybe if I am talking to you and you accepted my request for podcast, this was also because of some energies, within my body that was kind of bringing this on.
Yeah, in fact, we teach this in the Nadi Pariksha training. We teach how you can measure manifestation through the Nadi. So we teach this. So we combine the Panchavayu, Panchapitta, Panchakapha. There are 5 aspects of Vayu, Pitta, and Kapha. And we take this into account and we teach how the manifestation actually happens, how you visualize through Pranavayu, and how you intensify through Sadhaka Pitta, and then how you give it to the universe using Tarpaka Kapha. When you do this, then the manifestation happens. So it all goes, and then within these 3 are the intertwining emotions. So are you doing it with love? Are you doing it with fear or anger or resentment or hatred? Are you doing this because you don't want to go somewhere? Are you doing this because that's where you want to go? So all the gamut of these emotions and the Panchavayu, Panchapitta, Panchakapha, that's what causes manifestation to happen. We have seen through the Nadi Pariksha itself, we have seen how people, why they manifest something, why they don't manifest something. We have seen all of this.
So when we talk about modern healthcare, it's usually driven by quantifiable metrics, like you have HRV, EKGs, and biofeedbacks. So do you envision integrating Nadi Pariksha with digital sensors or AI-driven platforms recognition to create quantitative baseline for energy diagnostics?
So we have done some work here. I would call it AI, but we have done it machine learning. What we've done is, but we have not brought in any sensors per se. We have not done that. But that's because we believe, see, we are humans, right? We are like apes
Yes.
or like lions or
Yes.
like leopards,
Monkeys.
like
Yes.
tigers. All of these creatures like us, like elephants, the touch and feel is so very important. Social connections are so very important. If I'm going to replace my touch and feel with a probe, which is going to be a kind of an insulator between me and the person I'm working with, then we are not actually touching the person. See, the thought of one to many, that is the reason why all this has cropped up, right? One gadget if I invent and if it can replace me and replicate me and into 1,000, maybe 10,000 or a million, then that's something very good. It's a fair thought. Honestly, it's a fair thought. But the approach cannot replace the human being because people want to talk, they want listeners, they want to emote, they want to express. And many a time, just expression does a lot. I mean, if I'm sure this experience would is common across everyone. When I was a kid, I would have sometimes 102-degree temperature, 103-degree temperature. We would go to the doctor's clinic and wait it out for our turn. And while you're waiting out, the fever actually would reduce. All right. So there is an element of faith among so many people. So that faith, which is built up in the form of an invisible energy field, actually unconsciously begins to work on you and your fever begins to come down even before the doctor has seen you. Right now, how can you possibly quantify that? How can you possibly bring that into an AI model? So we need something that is touch and feel, and which is why what we are doing is we teach Nadi Pariksha to the doctors, and that's a very simple 3-day workshop. It is like learning to drive a car. You can learn to drive a car in 3 days, but that doesn't qualify you to drive a car in Bangalore on all the streets. So for that you need a different kind of experience. If you want to drive on silk board, you need humongous amount of experience on when to brake and how to prevent the two-wheeler from just coming between you and the car in front of you. So you need humongous experience to drive on every street. So once the doctor has learned, then we take them through a 3-month internship where they learn the different kinds of nadis. So I've been working for over 24 years, and I honestly did not measure the different kinds of nadis that I had seen in those years. But now in the last few months, we have actually started recording the different kinds of nadis that we are seeing, and we have now identified about 415 different kinds of combinations of nadis. And we are looking forward to record over 2,000 types, different patterns of nadis. And we have just put it all in an app. And so that the doctors, when they enter the combination, which we are be educating them with the combinations during the internship, so when they enter the combination, then the evaluation just populates. So this evaluation is something that I'm entering based on my experience. That's the machine learning that we are doing. So that's something that we are doing, and we are not allowing the human touch to be replaced by any probe or a gadget. We want to enable more people who can properly provide this intervention rather than really bring in a gadget.
And sir, if we talk about conventional medicine, so the treatment usually begins after the symptoms appear, and you have already mentioned that in the some time back. So how can Nadi Pariksha help in preempting diseases by identifying subtle imbalances long before this pathology develops? And what kind of lifestyle, dietary, or psychological interventions emerge from such early detection?
Yeah, so that's the whole point. That's why Nadi Pariksha. I mean, Nadi Pariksha primarily is given to identify what are the doshas. So primarily it is the dosha, all right? Dosha is an imbalance, all right? Now, if you look at the Shastra clearly specifies that kama, shoka. So when kapha increases, so how does kama, shoka, bhaya, vayuhu, krodhat, pittamiti? So when desire starts taking over, it all starts with desire. All right. When we have desires coming in, then the desire does not manifest. I mean, whatever I want does not manifest. All right. When desire started overtaking you, then you start becoming weaker and you start get feeling sad. Unless I'm able to fulfill the desire, I cannot be happy. All right. It starts creating shoka. So now shoka starts manifesting as increased triglycerides, undigested fats increase, mucosal secretion in the stomach increases. All right. And I start eating more sweets.
Yes.
And then I start having a respiratory problem. My phlegm starts increasing. My sinuses start getting congested. I start having bad breath, right? My scalp starts getting itchy.
Yes.
All right. So I start feeling dullness so I'm only focused on the desire. I'm not focusing on myself. So I have removed myself from observing the human that I am. I started focusing on fulfilling a desire. And this is what happens in the first step. Next is bhaya vayuhu. When the desire doesn't get fulfilled, I start feeling desperate. I start feeling anxious. I start feeling restless. Now, when Vayu starts increasing, now Vayu essentially causes movement. If you want to move your bowels, you need Vayu. I'm talking to you. For this, for you to be able to listen, you need to have the eardrum to vibrate, which is caused by Vayu. The vocal cord is moving because of Vayu. The sound impulses are produced because of Vayu. Vayu causes movement of my fingers. It causes movement of every object in the universe. Now, if Shoka has happened, then it causes an obstruction and Vayu cannot move. It starts manifesting as itching in the body. All right. And then Krodhat Pittamiti. When all this happens, then I start getting frustrated. Fear starts creating anger because I'm not able to control. The desire is not manifesting. I'm not willing to give up. So I start getting frustrated. I start pushing. You see, when people stand in a queue or people are there in a vehicle, when the stream of vehicles are there, when the traffic turns green and you don't see vehicles moving, everybody start honking. Yes. There is anger and frustration. I want to go first. It's the control that they want to exercise. This anger, krodhat pittamiti, starts creating pitta in the body. You start developing a migraine. You start developing acidity, acidic indigestion, acid reflux, stiffness in the base of the neck, all right, pain, stinging pain in the chest. All these happen because of this stream of events. Now, none of this is measurable. Yes. Right? But when the acid reflux becomes more regular, then the meters can pick up. Yes, you have acid reflux. Now let us treat this. Okay, so but what Nadi Pariksha is doing is it's catching the anger, it's catching the irritation, catching the fear, it is catching the sorrow, the sadness. And then we ask, what is the reason you're sad? And with the sambhashana, with the interaction, the person describes the nature of sadness. And then we are giving three levels of treatment, which you asked about. The first is being diet. The reason for we call it as pathya. Diet is not the right word. Diet is a very crude word. We call it as pathya. It's an English word, but doesn't actually translate the meaning of pathya. Pathya essentially means that now when you are sad, sweets are what your body will crave for, but those are the ones which are going to create all the problems. So we will stop you from having sweets. If you're having anger, we'll stop you from having sour foods. We'll stop you from having chicken. We'll stop you from having yogurt or curds. We're stopping you from having milk. Because these, even though your mother would have given those very foods to you, because now the body has changed. The emotions are taken over. The body is changing. So these very foods which your mother had given will produce adverse reactions in the body. So we will stop you from consuming this food. This is what we call as pathya, stopping the aggravation. And then we have emotions. We have therapies to release these emotions. There are different kinds of therapies to release emotions. Some of them to break the patterns, some of them to reduce the intensity of feeling, some of them to separate emotion from your memory and release the memory from you so that you can no longer live there. The different kinds of practices are there. So the combination of pathya, aushadhi, money. Money means essentially we're looking at metals in terms of the gold that you wear or the stones that you wear. We also tell through Nadi Pariksha whether this is benefiting you or not. And then we have aushadhi, which is essentially the Ayurvedic medicines. The combination of these three are used to help a person recover.
Got it, sir. This is pretty insightful, sir. And sir, why such kind of a things are not promoted in India as such? Like why these things are becoming like, one out of a million kind of a thing. People are not aware of these all things. What do you think should be done?
Like I told you in the beginning that the forethought is to reduce for a doctor to see more number of clients per day. Now, if you have gone for a doctor's appointment, tell me what is the time of your consultation appointment when you visit a doctor?
Maybe maximum 10 minutes, or 10 to 15 minutes.
Right? So with us, each consultation is 30 minutes. We want to give that value to the client. And with the 30 minutes, we are covering the entire psyche, the physiology, and we are arriving at the treatment. And it's not one person. So it's me, and then we have another doctor, and we also involve a third doctor if required. So we want to go into the in-depth and bring out the best possible treatment that a person needs. So each of our consultations is 30 minutes. And we are in no rush. We are not looking at number of people. So which is why we are creating more doctors. We are creating more professionals. We want more number of people to address the population instead of getting one person to address more number of people. If you're trying to get that, shorten the time to see more people, then you are going to say that, okay, your main problem is a headache. This is the pill. But you're telling, but I also have a back pain. Go see another expert. So the back pain guy is telling, okay, well, you have a back pain, you take this. He says, but I also have diarrhea. Okay, I'll put you to a gastroenterologist. He says, okay, you have this, you take this medicine, come after 5 days. I don't have time to listen to you. That's not what we want to do. We want to study your not only your biology, we want to study the human being that you are, your body, mind, ego. We want to study the whole thing and say that, okay, what is the cause of your problems? Where
Yes.
does the root lie? We want to see that.
And sir, you also emphasize on the fact that the healing occurs at multiple layers. It occurs at body, mind, spirit. So how does Nadi Chikitsa operationalize this integration? And can you explain how interventions like meditative therapy, breath work, diet, and behavioral realignment work together to restore this energetic harmony?
It's very simple. The problem occurs when you want to do. So when you want to interfere, that's where the word you use, intervene. That's where all the problem occurs. It's the body knows how to heal itself. It is born out of this earth. The body knows how to heal itself. So the first thing you have to do is to learn to listen to the body. To give you a simple example, when was the last time you experienced hunger?
I think half an hour back, sir.
Half an hour back. Now
Yes.
let us examine what is hunger. How does it feel in the body?
It feels like the stomach is empty
See,
and
that's an empty stomach. That's not a hungry stomach.
it feels like I'm getting agitated.
That's not hunger. Hunger is a beautiful feeling.
Yes.
So if you did not understand how your body works, it's very difficult to understand how the body heals. All right. So you have to break it down. Now it's very simple. From your navel, measure 6 fingers. From your navel, measure 6 fingers, and at the sixth finger, there's that point where after 6 fingers, that's where hunger occurs. Now, how does it occur? There's only one hot, sharp. When that happens, your mind stops processing. You just can't think. You need food. Now that is hunger. There is no tiredness. There's no fatigue. There is no headache. There is no anger. Nothing. When this happens, the mind can't process. You need food. Now, that is hunger. Now, when did that happen to you?
That pricking pain, sir, like
It's
6.
not pricking
Yes.
pain. Yeah, 6 fingers, one hot, sharp needle prick.
I think
And
not
remember,
in the last 6, 7 months of my memory.
right? So that is hunger. Now, the body, when it is having hunger, it is said to be in a good state of health. All right. So first thing that Ayurveda focuses on is to get the body to feel hungry. And when you are hungry, then your taste buds are sensitive. Then you relish what you're eating.
Yes.
You don't need excess taste. Whatever is offered to you is tasty because the body is hungry. All right. The tongue is sensitive. It is able to taste. It is able to taste the sweetness of rice. You don't need anything else to enhance the sweetness. But when the body is not hungry, you need to enhance the sweetness. You need to enhance the saltiness. You need to enhance the masala. You need to enhance the taste by adding masala to food. But if the body is hungry, it does not require these tastes. So first thing is to understand how the body works. And then we'll look at if a person is angry, when he is hungry, as people understand, and when the person is getting irritated, then we say hunger plus anger causes irritation. Now, what are you feeding? Are you feeding hunger or are you feeding anger? So you need to understand this. So once you go on understanding your body, it doesn't take much time.
Yes.
It just takes 3 days. 3 days for you to understand how the body works. So when the body works, all you have to do is the body hungry or is the mind hungry? If the mind is hungry, ask it to shut up. If the body is hungry, give it food. Many a times, the salivary glands get inflamed. People feel that I feel thirsty so often. You're not feeling thirsty. Your mouth is going dry. There's a difference. Now, when you get angry, your salivary enzymes inflame. Your salivary glands inflame. Your mouth goes dry.
Yes.
So we understand all these aspects through the nadi and then give therapies like Marma Chikitsa. Marma Chikitsa is a therapy that releases the obstructions in the body and harmonizes the flow of prana. And when we give Marma Chikitsa, then the body is able to feel, the body becomes more flexible, the person is able to sleep well, there's less stress in the body. And then when we give the food is able to digest better, there's more assimilation, and then there's more digestion. So the combination of what you call as breath, as prana, as pranayama, and the combination of diet, the combination of Marma Chikitsa to help ease the flow of prana through the body, and along with therapies which can take out the stress from the mind. So this is how we combine, bringing from the gross to the subtle. And that is how we combine and help a person become better.
This line makes a lot of sense, sir. From gross to.
It is taking from the symptom to the cause. That's what I would call it, as gross to subtle.
And sir, you have also institutionalized a lot of training programs around these pulse diagnosis and energy medicine. So what's the pedagogical approach, and how do you teach intuitive diagnostics in a replicable and standardized manner?
It's not intuitive diagnosis. That's not true. It's not intuitive. I wouldn't disagree. It's actually listening to the body. So if I help you to listen to the body, then you are listening to what I am listening. Intuition means it could be different for you, different for me, right? So if I say I'm able to see that star, and then if your eyes are not as sensitive as mine, you say where?
Yes.
If I say that you need to be intuitive, now I threw you a challenge. Say that you're not intuitive enough. That's why you're not able to see. Now that's not the approach. All I'm doing is helping you increase your sensitivity. So you can improve your sensitivity the way I can improve your sensitivity. And there are certain practices to improve sensitivity. I'm teaching you those practices. And when you do those practices, what I experience is what you will experience. This is what the approach is. The approach is to help you experience what I'm experiencing. It's an experience. I'm wanting you to experience the Nadi the way I am experiencing the Nadi. I want you to experience it. And then I say that, so that I'll tell them, this is how sensitively you have to place the fingers. And I demonstrate to them. Feel the sensitivity. They say, this is absolutely no pressure. Exactly. That's exactly what I want you to do. And when they place the fingers with the same amount of sensitivity, they say, I don't feel anything. That's because your mind is busy. Now you need to get into silence. Now, how to get into silence? There are certain practices which will help you rise above the mind. When you rise above the mind, you'll be able to feel.
Yes.
It's a physical feeling. Once you're able to feel, now let us express this feeling. How do we express? This is where Samskrita as a bhasha is used to express the feelings. And there are certain words. We say ruksha, which is dry. So how does it feel? And then we have a feeling. We say that, see, you see, this is ruksha. It feels like grains of sand moving under the fingers. He said, yes, I'm able to feel it. This is ruksha. So we identify this expression of the body. And then there is something called as avarana. That means like you have air which is trapped in a balloon. So we say kapha avratavata. If the balloon is not fully bloated, if it is half bloated, then the texture is more rubbery, more leathery. But when the balloon is fully filled with air, then the texture is more smooth, less leathery. Then we call it as avarana. So avarana differs. When the balloon is half full, the avarana is leathery. We call it as snigdha. And when the balloon is filled, then we call it as sthula, which is very sturdy, which is firm. We call it as sthira, which is very firm, which is hard. We call it as snigdha, which is soft. So there is a difference in texture when the balloon is half filled and the balloon is fully filled. So these are expressions that we use to understand the nadi. And there are combinations. How does it feel? Does it feel very light? Is it very feeble? Or is it hitting against your finger? So we call it as bala. How is the bala? We say, how is it moving? Is it moving like you're placing it on a generator? Or is it very slow? Is it dragging? That we have an expression for that. And what's the direction of this movement? And then we have it as gati, all right? We have it as nirama or sama. So there's a combination, there's a matrix of 4 into 3. The matrix of 4 into 3, which we describe, which is what we call as the matrix of the nadi, which is what we, in common terminology, in Ayurvedic terminology, we call it as Vikriti Pariksha. That is a long-standing change that has occurred. It's change from your constitution. That change is what we are studying. And once we identify this 4 into 3, then we arrive at conclusion.
And what are your thoughts on, how can we integrate this entire thing with the modern clinical ecosystem, sir? One of the ways you have told, like, you're building an app which can help doctors also. What are the other ways in which we can integrate?
It's debatable. That's because you cannot medicate. We cannot give Ayurvedic medication after studying a modern diagnostic. And you cannot give modern medication after studying an Ayurvedic diagnostic. The two are different. It's not about the nomenclature. To give you an example I'll give you an example. There was this lady who called us over the phone. And she said, I've got extremely severe jaw pain and migraine. So our office staff told he's busy in a consultation. She said, I'm desperate. When she said, I'm desperate, we just put a stop to the consultation. We said, we have somebody who's desperate. Took the call. And she said, I have this pain, and it was in the jaw. And I went to a dentist. They took a scan, and they said nothing wrong with your jaw. Your tooth are absent. They examined the tooth, and they said it's fine. And then we went and took an MRI to find out if there's anything in the brain or something in the neck, and they said everything is fine.
Yes.
So we don't know what's the cause of your pain, but you're experiencing pain. So she called, and I asked her. So when she explained the nature of the pain, I knew this is because of pitta, and the pitta is occurring because of krodha. That's what the Shastra says, krodhat pittam. So I asked her, who is with you? And she said, my daughter is with me. I said, okay, put the phone to the daughter. And the daughter took the phone. I said, go behind your mother. And we asked her to do some marma. She did some marma. We asked her how to, we told her how to do it. We put it on a video call, showed it on another staff of ours. We said, this is how you do it. And she just copied it, and the pain was gone. In the pain that existed for a week, the pain was gone in about less than 2 minutes. And then now I asked her, please give the phone to your mother. She took the phone. I said, have you been listening to, has somebody been shouting at you? She said, yes, my brother has been shouting at me for 2 days. I said, that's the cause of your pain. You've been listening, and you've been a victim of his shouting. You took it. That's the reason. Now, how could we, and there was no medication involved. Now, how could you possibly integrate this? First of all, we have to bring this belief system into modern medicine that anger causes symptoms, sorrow causes symptoms, fear causes symptoms. And there are non-medical approaches to resolve this. How would the system accept it? Would the system accept it? It's a
It's very
question,
tough.
because we are talking about an establishment. We're talking about an enterprise. We are talking about billing clients. We also bill our clients. But what do you write on the report? In Ayurveda, we write Krodhat Pittam, right? But how would you write that in a modern diagnostic report? They would write it as cervical spondylosis or
Yes.
TMG. They would call it as TMG, trigeminal neuralgia. But where is the evidence? Because the MRI says that you're perfectly okay. So what do I write in the conclusion? Do I write it as psychosomatic? Because that's not acceptable. Because that requires a psychologist to confirm. So, but how will the psychologist confirm that this problem is caused by emotion because of anger? It's very difficult. So we've tried to understand, we've tried in our own ways. We also have modern medical doctors come to us for consultation. So we give them extended time. Want to understand how they operate, and what does modern medical science say? How does it identify? How can we possibly try and integrate? And we've always hit roadblocks because Ayurveda, it's not appropriate to dilute Ayurveda.
Yes.
We cannot say, can we infer this as this? No, I don't want you to infer anything. I want you to just accept Ayurveda as Ayurveda. I don't want you to break it down and say that let's, for the sake of understanding. No, you have to accept it the way it is.
And sir, do you believe that the next wave of healthcare innovation will come from understanding these bioenergetic, origins of disease rather than just its biochemical effects?
I'm sure. I'm sure. I mean, everything. There's no barrier of who can invent what, and things are getting more sensitive. For example, you are seeing newer inventions of people actually. I mean, there have been new inventions of being able to detect cancer even before it has occurred, even before it's manifested. Being able to detect urinary tract infections even before it manifests. I'm sure there will be inventions that will come, which are in a way measurable by their own methods. They have certain waveforms that will tell you that you are possibly going to get this particular symptom. But how accurate they are, we don't know. So it's, I actually don't have an idea. But I'm sure it's just going to get better, because people are getting more and more sensitive. They want to catch the illness before it has come. They want to diagnose cancer before it actually manifests. And I'm sure they will get there, because Ayurveda also, I mean, all the pramanas that we have has taken centuries of study. So even now people are studying. It's just that in those days they were dressed differently, looked different. And these days we are dressed differently and look different. But I'm sure intelligence is the same. There are a lot of people who want to do good.
And sir, before we kind of close the podcast, also would like to, hear from you, so If you talk about, Bangalore kind of a city or any, metro city where people are always stressed, like there's a perpetual stress that they go through. If they're happy, they are stressed. If they're sad, they are stressed. They're stressed about everything. If they have food, they're stressed. If they don't have food, they're stressed. How can people break this cycle? Because so you pointed out that, it all starts with desires, like, desire, and it has got no ends, like basically, like, when you own a big car also, your stress doesn't go away. When you don't have a car also, your stress doesn't go away. So how can people manage their mental health well, and especially people who are working professionals and entrepreneurs and all these people?
Okay, there are two words. One is satisfaction, the other is contentment. Tripti is what we call. All right, always you must. So contentment comes whenever you help others. When you help others, there's a feeling of goodness. There's a feeling of tripti. When you are really hungry and you have a meal, you are tripta. All right, so that is contentment. Happiness essentially comes when you get something. It's short-lived. Satisfaction, you'll never get it. You'll never be satisfied. It's like this: you earn 100 rupees. You want to earn 100 rupees. The moment you earn 100, you're satisfied. Immediately, mind thinks about 150.
Yes,
All
yes.
right. And then, moment you earn 150, now you're sure how to get 150. You want to get 200. Moment you
Yes.
hit 200, you want to make. Now you want to multiply. Now I have demonstrated 100, 150, 200. How about 300?
Hmm.
And 300, how come doubling it? How about doubling it? 600. So it never stops. So you'll never be satisfied. So always aim at contentment. Always look at what problem can I solve? How can I solve a problem of a people? There is a population with multiple problems. What gap can I see? What gap can I patch? What can I invent? What can I discover? What can I solve? If my mindset is constantly rooted here, then I'm only going to be inspired more and more every day. Then I don't care about where my lunch is coming, where my dinner is coming. I don't care about my sleep. I don't care about my rest. My body will, you know, every day it will wear and tear, but the cost of wear and tear will be so huge. To give you an example, many years ago, I met this gentleman in Hyderabad. He was a 65-year-old gentleman, and he had very high diabetes. His wife was really concerned, but he was least bothered. And then they wanted to see me. I did the consultation, and then I did Marma Chikitsa to him, and he started swaying as he was talking to me. He was just he was putting his foot, lifting his foot, and he said, "Please don't mind my swaying. In the last 10 years is the first time I'm able to feel my feet. Otherwise, they felt like blocks of wood." I said, "Wow." And he said, "You know what? I have high diabetes. My wife is concerned, but I know why it has come." I was intrigued. I mean, there's a person who knows why he got diabetes. I said, "Yes, sir, I would like to know why you got diabetes." He said, 25 years ago, three of us set up the medical university in Abu Dhabi. We're just three of us. 3 months we didn't sleep. And we had so much of paperwork to accomplish. And that's where my diabetes began. I said, "Wow." And he said, "For that, the diabetes is a very small disease. I can bear it. But look at the value. There is this person who was contributed to setting up a medical university. And the diabetes is a very small thing that is really not bothering him. That's the kind of life you need to lead." So he's so content with that contribution. There's absolutely no worries, absolutely nothing. He's so content, he's so full, and the diabetes is nothing for him. That's the life. When you live that kind of a life, then your symptoms really don't bother you. The body will wither, the body will develop aches, pains, and problems. That's what Sharira means, that which is born to die.
Yes.
That's what Sharira means. But then when you have a purpose to live, then death doesn't defy you. Death doesn't scare you, doesn't stop you.
That is so true, sir. And I read one line somewhere, like, I think a couple of months back, that why to be afraid of death when you are sleeping every day?
Exactly, exactly. But how you live matters
Yes.
more. If you haven't lived, then you're afraid to die.
Thank you so much, sir, for this insightful discussion. And thank you so much for sharing all these insights. I'm very sure that this is going to help a lot of people who will be watching the podcast. And if somebody wants to learn these things, how can he approach you?
So we have a website, nadichikitsa.com, which is primarily the consultation website. From there, you get the links for the trainings. So we have Nadi Chikitsa Institute for Ayurvedic Studies, which is a trust where all the trainings come from. We also conduct emotional well-being programs for people to learn. We have a lot of uncertified counselors. This is your next cubicle. The person sitting in the next cubicle is your unqualified counselor who will listen to all your problems and give solutions for free with zero experience. So we want these people to also learn about emotional well-being. So how do you deal with somebody who always wants to talk about their problems? How do you really offer solutions, or do you tell them that you need to find someone with whom you can speak, or do you teach them something through which they can express everything that they have? And we also teach Marma Chikitsa. We also teach Nadi Pariksha. So Nadi Chikitsa is the main site, nadichikitsa.com. That's the mother site. If you go there, you'll find all the information that you need.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you so much for joining us. Thank you so much. Extremely grateful that you took out time. Thanks so much, sir.
Thank you. Thank you.